you're not done, you tell me. You came up with a few more names for your rotation?
Well, I got the rotation. I just quickly, though, I wanted to go back to the bench here. We kind of rushed through the bench players.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I mentioned I got Kevin Mitchell. You know, he was an outfielder.
Yeah, the Giants, yeah.
Kevin Mitchell, I got a little note here. Kevin Mitchell, listed at 5'11", 210.
Absolutely a flat-out lie.
Kevin Mitchell, he ballooned to about 255 towards the end of his career in 1997. Little known fact, or maybe it is a known fact. In 1990, he was 4 days late to spring training because he got injured eating a microwave donut requiring a root canal.
Well, it's very difficult, especially when the inflation upon the donuts. I've had problems with my jaw in the past. It's understandable.
Have you had a microwave donut before?
On occasion.
Really?
3 to 4 times a day.
Is this a San Francisco thing?
No, it's very difficult, especially upon the San Francisco treats that they have out there. It's difficult to consume all the donuts. You have to maximize it in the microwave.
Kevin Mitchell once went on the DL after straining his rib muscles while vomiting.
Well, you have 4 or 5 donuts. It's going to happen.
You don't have to shove them down your throat.
Speaking of which, can we just get a segment on most bizarre DL stints by Major League athletes? My favorite, still to this day. You remember Marty Cordova, right?
Yeah.
Marty, 1995 Rookie of the Year over Garrett Anderson, played with the Twins, Cleveland. He, in like 98, had to go on the DL. I guess he had to miss a couple games because he spent too much time in the tanning bed before a game. And burnt himself. So he couldn't play in the game.
You know, Glenn Allen Hill, you remember him?
Cubs, was he left fielder?
He played for the Cubs. Actually, they picked him up off waivers in 98, and he actually kind of carried the team to the wild card. Well, not carried it, but he was a key cog in that 1998 team. Yeah. Anyway, went on the DL once because of an arachnophobic nightmare.
No, whoa, what?
Yeah. That's what it says.
Did you see the Jeff Daniels movie? Did you see arachnophobia got scared or what?
I don't know. I just seen in his player profile and in media guide it says 15-day DL, arachnophobic nightmare.
That's a tidbit that you always want to throw in. Terry Mulholland, who played with a combined 87 teams in his career. He was last with the Twins. He missed a game, and Jim Rome, I remember, lit into him for this one. He was sleeping on like a little feather bed on the road. And he rolled over, and a feather punctured the outer linen of the pillow and poked him in his eye.
Wow.
So, I know, exactly. So he's, in an uproar about it, has to miss a game. Rome lays into him. Mulholland wasn't happy, so he comes back looking like, Captain Hook with like a mini patch on his eye trying to play. So I don't think that tops arachnophobia, or maybe I should have only been in the tanning bed for 5 minutes instead of 50, but it ranks somewhere up there. What else do you have for me?
I got John Kruk on the bench, another first baseman, 5'10", 204. I don't know.
He's pushing 350 on Baseball Tonight.
You think so?
They say that if the whole camera adds 10 pounds, it has somehow found a way to slender him because every time he walks, he waddles. How on Baseball Tonight they now like to do the in-depth, let's show you how this play is going to work. Like they'll go to the little side screen and show how pickoff work, why Andy Pettit's such a great pickoff artist, and Kruk will be the first baseman. They have to wheel him out there at this point. It's just that bad with Johnny K.
Oh, that's bad. Also, Ron Coomer making it to the bench. Just barely, but he comes in at 5'11", 195.
One-time All-Star, Minnesota Twins.
He did. He made the All-Star, 97, 96?
That's why. That was the year I realized baseball's system for selecting All-Stars is an absolute hypocrisy upon the democratic reform of America, that you get a player for a team that's going to finish 60 games under 500. He finished like 81 RBIs that year.
Yeah.
He hit like 280, and he was our All-Star.
Yeah, played for the Cubs for 1 year, too. Did horrible.
And now he's the analyst with the Minnesota Twins. He's sporting the mini-mall. He's got the mini-mall.
Kind of looking like John Kruk a little bit.
He is. He's repping the John Kruk look with half the talent.
And I don't know if I mentioned designated hitter, Cecil Fielder. I don't know if I mentioned that one before.
Well, that's a given.
That is a given.
He gets inducted just based on the look.
Yeah.
Cecil could have had a less than spectacular career, but just based on his sizable assets, he gets in.
Yeah. And, he didn't steal his first base until his 1,096 Major League game. And, of course, it was against the Twins.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that Terry Mulholland was pitching in that game.
I don't know. It could have been. I mean, Terry Mulholland, when he started his
wasn't
career
with the Twins at that point.
He started his career in 1932.
I think Woodrow Wilson was actually the president when Terry kicked off his career. And that's what the worst aspect with Prince. Not only that he's got a strained relationship with his father, not only do they not talk anymore, but that every bungled reporter who's never dealt with him, comes in not knowing the story and always asks something along the lines of, "Oh, you just got your second stolen base of the season. That's 2 times more than your dad ever had." Thanks for that.
And then there's that awkward silence.
That is where Prince is like, "I weigh 150 more pounds than you, and I could have you killed. Get away from me." And that continues too. Which is an awkward situation. But Prince, I think, has 8 in his career.
Yeah,
8 stolen bases, something like that. And Cecil's still racking 1.
I think he has 2, doesn't he? I don't know when that happened. I think he might have 2. I'm not really sure.
Information I could care less about. Yeah. Continue.
All right, moving to the rotation. So I got some guys here for my pitching staff. I got a 5-man rotation. Then I got a
Tell me Sidney Ponson anchors this.
No, he is the number 5 starter. He's the mop-up starter. Yeah.
Typical.
Somehow Sidney Ponson won 17 games in 2003. I don't know how it happened. I think it was a fluke.
Tim Donahue was actually an MLB umpire before this, and he paid off several opposing umpires.
He had bets on Sidney Ponson. Ponson, 6'1", 225. That's what he's listed at, according to Baseball Reference.
The reason why HD television should not have been created. You and I found out personally early in the year when we checked out Sidney Ponson's opening debut with the Twins against the Yankees, and we went to an establishment where they had the 60-inch plasma HD TV. And did we ever figure out an appropriate nickname for the great Blob Glob? When they zoom in on him with that HD and he's glistening with his glow of sweat with the 12 o'clock shadow. It wasn't even a 5 o'clock.
Don't even know.
He's got this little scraggly Jerry curl mullet going.
He looks like he's straight out of the 80s.
He was like, if Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway, if he would have lived there for 20 more years, and just had just pure steak and Twinkies to eat, that's what he would have looked like. That's how embarrassing Sidney Ponson looked like. 220? Are you kidding me? He was at least 245 in the game we saw.
245, 250.
He made it through about 8 starts before he was cut.
Yeah. All right, so the ace of the staff, I would say Fernando Valenzuela.
Oh, good one, without a doubt.
1981 Cy Young and Rookie of the Year, 173 career wins. Listed.
The Mexican Magician.
Listed at 5'11", 195.
El Guapo.
No, El Guapo, we'll get to him a little bit later.
You got Rich Garces on here?
We got here, but we're in the rotation, so we got number 2 starter, CC Sabathia, 6'7", 250.
CC's got that build, though, where I got to disagree with this one.
You think so?
CC's going to be a 19. He's won 12 games this year. He's a Cy Young candidate.
13-4 now.
Don't you have to have some guidelines where these players have to be as big of a joke as Sidney Ponson, or at least they have to look like that? Like, you look at him and go, how do you succeed?
This is an all-star team, though. You got to remember that.
I think CC's actually game because they were showing when he played in the Futures game in '98. Mm-hmm. And he weighed like 215 at that point. So he's gained like 35 pounds in that short of a time frame. So I can agree with CC a little bit in that regard. But Fernando just had that chunky, shifty demeanor where you still would watch a player of his ilk and wonder, how are you going 8 scoreless innings with the way you're built? And also you have to look at Mr. Venezuela as a guy who kind of revitalized an entire community. The entire Hispanic community reveled around Fernando in L.A. Mid-'80s, guys winning a Cy Young, taking L.A. to the World Series, and he looks like an extra and, Super Size Me, the Morgan Spurlock film. He looks like some extra who's flipping fries at the area In-N-Out or McDonald's. Like, that's what was so shocking about Fernando is he never looked like a commanding and dominating pitcher, but he just found a way to succeed. CC as well, he's gone through that bit of a stretch where he's one of those players who expectations always kind of snuck by him. Every year you'd say, this is a guy, 15, 16 wins, ERA below 3.5. Watch out, this is his time. Hadn't worked out that way until this year. Now CC is finally a candidate to be named in the same rank and file with Fernando Venezuela. That he is actually a Cy Young candidate for a team that's a World Series contender as well. So I can understand CC. Fernando is kind of just the cream of the crop though as well, where the guy took over that entire mound. I mean, you would watch him walk to the plate, and every single time, if he was hitting, if he was pitching, the only reaction was, this has got to be a joke. This guy doesn't belong. His rotation, his arm movement, it just looked like he was uncomfortable, yet he was still able to fire away en route to nearly 200 wins as a pitcher in the major leagues. I kind of miss that, though. I hate all these chiseled perfection players. These guys who just look like they've spent 10 straight hours working out in the gym with Walker, Texas Ranger, Mr. Chuck Norris, looking like they've been heaving buses in the strongman competition. You don't have players like Fernando anymore that you can relate towards players and people like us that just don't really represent the everyday theme. That was probably the best part about Mr. Valenzuela. You had to dig his style altogether.